Well, hello there, everybody. Thanks for joining me on Thursday. This is day 4 of our acrylic pouring extravaganza. We've got a full house already. This is awesome. So welcome, everyone. Wow, I can't believe all of you are here already, which is wonderful. Hey, Novala, nice to see you. Diane is here. Linda is here. Nancy is here. Hey, Nancy. Sharon is here. Linda, again, is here. Let's see here. George is here. Hey, George. So we've got all kinds of people here, which is great. Monique is here. Fantastic. Lorna, welcome, Lorna. Hey, Jay. And so we've got a whole bunch of people. Donna is here. Wow, awesome. Pat, Robin, welcome, everybody. Well, today is going to be a very, hopefully, very useful lesson for you. We're going to be talking about consistencies with our paint. And I'm going to be showing you one particular consistency, which is the one I use most often. It's my kind of standard consistency. And I'm going to show you how to duplicate it exactly. So you won't need to be guessing anymore. I have a special little tool for you that you can download. It's in the download section right now, and probably another sheet that I'll be adding there in a little bit. So it's going to be very informative. Not super technical. It's pretty easy. Takes a little bit of, I don't want to say patience, but we're going to be doing some measuring. But there's nothing to be worried about. So but now if you do this, it's like a little test for you to make like a sample paint. And once you do this, maybe once or twice, you'll have these paints that you can go back to, and you'll know your consistency is correct, and you can compare all your other paints to it. So we're going to get into a lot of different things today, but I'm going to take it step by step and slow. Take it really slow. Consistency. The reason I'm teaching you this is the paint consistency, which is the thickness or thinness of our paint mixtures, is critically important to get successful paintings. It's one of the most important factors in paint pouring or acrylic pouring to get, decent paintings. And if your paint is too thick, some techniques you just can't do it. So if your paint is too thin, it really takes away from the technique. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. But there is not just one paint consistency. There are several, and many techniques use very thin paints. Some techniques use thick paints, and then there's some that are kind of in between. But I don't want you to get really, really worried, because there is leeway with this consistency stuff. So you just have to get close. You don't have to get perfect. You just have to get close. And I'm going to show you how to get really close today. And you're going to be in great shape. So, all right. So before I get going into our consistency talk, I just want to let you know that tomorrow I am opening up my membership, the Pouring Studio, which is an acrylic paint pouring membership for new members. So if you're interested in maybe becoming a member of my membership, tomorrow you'll be able to join us. And the membership will be open for a week, and I'll be talking about it every single day. So I'm going to be going live over the weekend, over next week. So you're going to get, hopefully not totally sick of me, but so I'm going to be talking about lots of different things. I'll take you inside the membership and show you around, show you what we've been talking about and doing in there. And I haven't opened the membership up in quite a little while now. It's been several months. That's because I have been kind of reformulating how I wanted to do the membership. And the membership content really isn't going to change all that much. But what I am going to be doing now is I'm going to be making a whole lot more courses. I already have a course, 2 courses actually, that are in that membership. One is called the Foolproof Pouring Mini Course, which is kind of a beginner course to get your feet wet in paint pouring. The second one is called the Fluid Art Foundations course, which is basically my entire paint pouring system all laid out for you. And I walk you through it step by step, exactly how I mix my paints, how I measure them. I walk you through the 3 core paint pouring techniques. There's a lot in there. It's a pretty big course. And these courses will be for sale so anyone could buy them. You don't have to be a member to buy them. Anyone will be able to buy them. But if you are a member of the Pouring Studio, you're going to get those courses for free. And I just want to kind of go over quickly before we get started what we do every month in the membership. And I wrote a list because sometimes it's hard to remember all this stuff. But where are we here? So normally in the membership, when we start a new month, we work on one technique each month. And I just choose it, not randomly really, but I choose more beginner techniques, and then I might jump up into more advanced techniques. So I kind of go across the gambit of difficulty. We don't start at the very basics and then work our way up. I kind of jump around a little bit. It keeps it interesting and fun. And it also helps the members to kind of jump in there with both feet and see what they can do with these little more complex techniques. But so we work on one technique every month. And by the way, this coming month, May, we're going to be working on the string pull / chain pull. It's a really, really fun technique. I haven't even told my members that yet. So some of them are here. So guess what? We're working on the string pull / chain pull in May. It's a really fun technique, though. But so we work on one technique. The first week, I walk you through the entire technique. I do a technique walkthrough. I show you what your paint consistency might want to be like, any kind of special tools you might need, any special ingredients. I walk you through the whole thing, and then I do a demo and show you kind of how the technique is performed step by step. And that's week one. So we meet every week for a live stream, very similar to this. And week two, I do some more demos. And usually with those, I show you variations of the technique, other ways you can do it, maybe more complex alternatives to that technique. So that's really fun. I call that Painting Night Live. Number three, or week three, we have a studio chat. And in the studio chats, we talk about a lot of different things. And it's a variety of topics. So we just finished our studio chat last night for this month. And I did a lot of paint mixing. And I showed my members how to mix up custom colors, or maybe how to match colors using a palette knife and just a palette paper, just squirting out some paints, mixing them up. And so we talked all about paint mixing. But in previous studio chats, we've talked about how to finish your paintings, color theory, a little more advanced in-depth color theory, composition will be coming up. So we talk about lots of different things in the studio chat to cover all sorts of unique different topics that play into our acrylic pouring. And then week number 4, we have a members-only Q&A. So you could submit your questions if you have them. If you submit them, I can take a look and maybe prepare something. If it's a more advanced or tougher question to ask, I could do a demo or something like that. But you don't have to submit your questions. You could ask them live right in our live chat. So that's a very helpful video or week. And it's all about helping you answer and solve your problems. So that is week 4. And then we also have a 5th week, really. And that is an art show. And so every month you can submit your paintings that you've done that month. And they don't have to necessarily be the technique we're working on, but you can submit your paintings and we'll all take a look at them a little bit, point out some things I like about your paintings. And if you want me to, I can critique them a little, more heavily. But that's, kind of, that's a little different thing. Normally it's just about having fun, checking out what everyone has done, seeing the progress we've made. And then I give away some prizes, which is always really cool. So we have a great big wheel that I spin, and if it lands in your name, you get a prize, which is awesome. I give away paints and tools and supplies. So it's just a really, really fun way. And it's kind of a gentle way to encourage you to practice your painting and actually show other people what you're working on, which can be kind of scary to, put your paintings out there. But it's a really fun atmosphere. Everyone is very supportive in the membership. We have a great time. So, and that is what we really do in the membership month to month. And plus there might be other little things that come up and we'll talk about, or other little surprises. I always have lots of handouts, just like we're having this week, lots of resources and things for you to download and things to help you with your paint pouring. But this particular time, when I'm opening up the membership, I'm going to be offering some bonuses. And this is really a one-time only deal or offer, because I'm never going to do this again. And I just want to go over what I'm going to be offering in this particular membership opening. So the first one is you get access to the Foolproof Pouring mini course. That's free and in the membership for you. You also get access to my brand new course, the Fluid Art Foundations course. That's available to you as well as a member. And there are some other things. So next up, I'm going to be I'm working on it currently, but I'll be launching it in June, which is a paint consistency course. So kind of what we're talking about today, only much more in depth. So I'm working on that right now. It's I forget the name, what I called it. Did I write it down? The Perfect Consistency Paint Mixing Course is what I'm calling it. And it shows you how to mix the perfect consistency for all the different techniques. There are about 4 consistencies that I use most often, from what we'll be talking about today, the standard consistency, and then it goes all the way up to the Dutch pour consistency, which is very thin paint. And so I will show you how to create these consistencies perfectly every single time. And I'll have some tools that you can use to check your consistency whenever you mix up your new paints. And also, what's really important is to check all of the different colors in a particular painting, because we need all of our paints to be the same consistency for whatever technique we're working in. So that is going to be kind of an in-depth course. Again, not super complicated, but I think you'll find it incredibly valuable. And those tools will be probably invaluable, I think. I'll be using them a lot as well. And we'll take a sneak peek at one of them today. And that is yours as well for free if you join the membership during this member launch. Next up, I have another course that will be opening up the following month, which is all about pricing your artwork. And this is a kind of a complicated subject for a lot of people, especially if you're brand new and you might want to think about selling your work. For new people kind of stepping into trying to sell their work, it can be a very daunting, complex topic and a little bit scary. So I'm going to show you how to price your work. I have actually 3 different methods that you can use, going from like very beginner, like if you're just starting, to kind of intermediate, and then also if you're a little more advanced, kind of how to price your work and the considerations to think about. And there's a lot that goes into it. And I also have 3 different calculators that you can use. I've custom made them myself. For me, I have an advanced calculator that I use to price my work, and it factors in everything that goes into it, which is materials, packaging, and of course profit. And then there's a lot more than that goes into pricing your work. But I also am going to create, and I've created one of them, but I'm going to create another one, 2 simpler calculators, very similar, based on the same type of thing, that are not quite as daunting. So, those will be included in the course. And I'll, of course, walk you through how to use those calculators. And then we'll have factors that you can enter and to determine your pricing. We're going to be talking about competition, how to research competition. And that's kind of like your market, your art market. And, you can kind of determine what's selling and what for what price. We'll also be talking about, are you selling in person or over the internet? There's a whole lot that's going to be going into this course. And again, that is yours for free in the membership. So, and then finally, number 4, the 4th bonus is every other course I create in the future will also be yours for free if you join the membership during this opening. This is a crazy offer, really. And I have a whole lot of courses planned in the future. I'm planning on creating a new course about every month. Longer ones, more complex ones might take me a month and a half, 2 months to complete. but I'll be creating new courses constantly moving forward, and about all sorts of different things. I wrote down a couple just that I'm going to be working on relatively soon here. The first one is the bloom technique, and that is a complicated technique. It's about as complicated as they get. There is already a great course by Shelley Carruthers. I bought it. I went through it. It's a wonderful course, and I highly recommend it if you're interested in the bloom. The only problem with it is Shelley is in Australia. I'm in America, and Shelley uses completely different ingredients and paints than I use and have available to me. So I am creating my own kind of bloom course, and it will be covering the classic style, like Shelley's classic style, plus some variations on the bloom and other ways to go about doing it, because there are many different ways you can tackle the bloom. And I was going to do this in the membership. I might do a simple bloom month, but the bloom is so complicated. There's so much that goes into it. It really deserves a course on its own. So I will be coming out with a bloom course. I will be coming out with a resin course, how to use it, how to finish your paintings with resin. We can even talk about how to make artwork with resin. I don't use a lot of resin. I have used it in the past. I like resin, but it can be tricky to use, especially it can be hazardous. You kind of need a special place to do resin, but this course will cover pretty much all of the basics you'd want to know about resin and how to use it, how to apply it to your paintings, how to finish your paintings with it, and other things I like to do with resin. So that is another course. I'm going to be working on a pearl technique course. And the pearl technique, similar to the bloom technique, is kind of advanced. It takes kind of a lot of practice. There are a lot of ingredients. Some of them are kind of expensive that go into creating like pearl paintings, pearl pour paintings, and the pearl pour slash cloud over pour, kind of like Sarah Taylor uses. They're very similar. So there's a lot of overlap between those. So we'll be kind of covering kind of multiple techniques in that one course, but it's going to be a fun course, I think. I don't do the pearl pour as much as I'd like to. It's a very, what am I trying to say? I don't want to scare you. It's a tough one, and it takes a lot of practice. So I'll just say that, and I'll leave it there. But with this course, I think I can really, really shorten your learning curve. And then finally, this is another one course I'm going to be coming out with in the future, is a geode course. I love geode paintings. They're really fun to make. And you can do it with both resin and you can do it with acrylics. You can add all kinds of glitters and glass and actual crystals to it. I mean, you can go crazy with geodes. And they're really, really fun. They're very popular. And a lot of people make a lot of money selling their geode paintings. So if that's something that interests you, well, I'll have a course on it. And if you're a member, you get that course for free. So, and you might be wondering, well, why am I making such an amazing deal, like this crazy deal? Well, I'll tell you why. And it's because I have a lot of members currently that are in the membership. And I have just recently decided to kind of shift gears and start creating courses in addition to the membership content. And of course, anyone will be able to buy these courses. They'll be available to anybody. But I wanted to give my members access to all these courses because they were there with me right from the beginning. They've supported me and encouraged me. And so this is like a great big giant thank you for sticking with me and kind of going on this big journey with me. So that's a great big thank you from me to them. But I also had a bunch of people that had signed up for my wait list for when I was going to reopen the membership in the future. And they've been patiently waiting for a few months now while I've been deciding all this stuff. And I thought it would only be fair to offer them the same, the same kind of deal as my founding members. So I will be offering them this wonderful deal too, if they decide to join me in the membership. But then I thought, you know what? I'm only going to be doing this one time. So why don't I open it up and offer it to anybody who decides to join me in the membership for this particular one-time only membership opening? So Now is the time. If you've been waiting or thinking about joining my membership, now is definitely the best time possible to do so. Because once the doors close again next week, after next week is over, I will never ever offer this deal again. I will be opening up the membership in the future again as well, but the price will most likely be higher because there'll be a whole lot more content in there already. And but I will not be offering all of these courses as a free bonus. So maybe one, or two, just like as a bonus to get people to join. That's kind of a marketing thing, but definitely not every single course I ever create. That is a one-time only thing that's going away forever. And the other thing is, if you join the membership afterwards, you will get a discount on all these courses. If you decide to buy any of them, you'll get a 50% discount. So being a member will still have a huge benefit, but you will not get any of them for free. I mean, unless they're a bonus for joining that particular membership opening. So I just wanted to talk about that quickly because the membership's opening tomorrow at 9 a.m. That's Friday, April, what day is it? 22nd at 9 a.m. Pacific time, which is noon Eastern time. So, and I'll put the link in the chat if you want to go check it out. I'm still kind of reworking the sales page. So it's kind of in its bare bones format. So forgive me for that. I don't have everything absolutely spelled out, but you'll get the gist of it. So I'm going to throw that link down in the comments if you want to go check it out. And let me grab it here. So here we go. So I'm putting it in the chat, and don't feel like you have to be there, right at 9 o'clock to become a member. It's going to be open for a week, so you have plenty of time. And I will be talking much more about the membership. I'm going to be taking you on a tour inside. We'll be taking a look inside these courses that are already completed and in there, so you can kind of get a better sense of what we do in the membership and what's included. So I just want to let you know that it will be opening tomorrow if you want to jump in, and that would be awesome. So, and you could also join us then for next week's members only Q&A, so which would be very cool. So anyway, so with that said, I just want to say thanks so much for listening to me with my big old spiel about the membership. And let's get into talking about some paint pouring consistencies. So I'm going to move my notes out of the way. I've got so many notes today. And all right, so first up, and well, first of all, before I dive into that, I just want to see if there are any questions that might have come up quickly. And Linda has got a great question, and I didn't even mention it. I didn't even think about it. Linda's asking, it sounds awesome. How much is it? The membership is going to be priced at $25 a month. And that is it. And so for $25 a month, you get access to all of our monthly membership content, plus all the previous content we've already done. You can watch all of that as well. And all of the courses that I just mentioned, all of those crazy bonuses are all yours. As long as you're a member in good standing, you get access to everything basically that I ever make. So that is the price, $25 a month. And all right, great question. Thanks for asking that, Linda. All right. And see, I'm just checking to see if there are any questions. Well, thank you. I'm really appreciative of all my awesome members saying all these nice things about me in the comments. I didn't pay them to do so. Thank you so much, everyone. So I really, really appreciate that. That's wonderful. So, all right. I don't see any other questions at the moment. So let's dive in and talk about some paint consistencies. So first up, when I think of paint consistency, I break it down into like 3 C's. Paint consistency to me, there are actually 3 parts to it. So part number 1 is consistency of your process. And that means you're using the same amount of ingredients in all your colors. you're using the same amount of paint, perhaps, in all of your different mixes. If you're using the same type of paint, 2 paints, I'm assuming, all these paints are pretty much going to be similar for one painting. So that means we have the same amount of Floetrol or whatever ingredients we're using in each paint mixture, each little cup of paint we're mixing up. We have relatively the same amount of paint in each one of those cups. So we're doing everything, similar. We want the same amount, which means that we have to measure it somehow. And I have a great way of measuring ingredients, which I show you in that foundations course. But there are a couple other ways we can measure ingredients as well, and I'll show you 2 of them. One is a little easier than the other, but they're both very quick and fast, in my opinion. So that is number 1 part of consistency, is just our process. And the reason I like to have everything the same every time I mix my paints up and pour a painting is because now I can have measurable results. And if I just eyeball everything, and many great paint pour artists do this, so there's nothing wrong with it per se. But if I'm eyeballing everything, I'm just squirting Floetrol here and squirting a little bit of paint in there, I have no way of measuring any results because I don't know exactly what's in any of my mixtures. So measuring things out gives me the ability to modify things. So if I started with a formula and say, I'm testing something new, I'm going to go with 5 parts Floetrol and like 1 part paint and maybe 2 parts of something else. And if I make them all the same, well, now I know exactly what kind of results, in general, those paints and that formula are going to make. If it doesn't work, well, now I can modify things. I can change it around. But if it does work, well, that's great. Now I know exactly how to mix paints that specific way in the future. So that's why I like measuring things, using the same amount of each ingredient in all my paints. It's because it easily allows me the ability to modify things, change things, fix things, and then repeat things. That's another important thing. We can get much better results time after time if we mix everything the same, rather than just kind of willy-nilly throwing it all together. So, and by the way, that might sound, oh my God, that's just so, it's like science or, whatever. It's not artistic at all. Well, this is just, we're just mixing up our materials. We're just dealing with our materials at this point. It's a mechanical process. There's no artistry to it, really. The artistry comes in selecting your colors. The artistry comes in selecting your technique, how you pour your paint on the canvas. All that other stuff is the art part. This is merely preparing our ingredients, preparing our paints. It's no different than an oil painter laying out all his oil paints and then mixing them with a certain amount of linseed oil to prepare them to put on a canvas. Or an oil and cold wax artist, they lay out all their oil paints, they mix them all with a specific amount of cold wax, they prepare them, they might create a range of colors. That's just preparing our ingredients. So there's really nothing to be artistic about it. That's just being a great craftsman and giving yourself the best chance of creating a great painting. So I've harped on that enough. Number 2 in our consistency, in our number 2 factor is the consistency of our mixture. And this is really what everyone's talking about with consistency. It's the thinness or the thickness of our paint. And it makes such a huge difference. And I'm not going to say it's absolutely necessary to be absolutely perfect, because it's really not. So don't think you have to be, we're not smashing atoms here. So we don't have to be that exactly perfect, but we want to get kind of close, So, but something like a ring pour and a flip cup, those techniques require the paint to be thicker or slightly thicker than some other techniques. Things like the swipe require, maybe a slightly thinner paints, especially if you're not using silicone with your swipes. If you want to create lots of cells, well, then those paints need to be even thinner still. And but then those paints would be problematic to use in like a flip cup or a ring pour or something like that. Then if we get into the Dutch pour territory, now we're talking about really thin paints, like almost water, and not quite water thin, but very, very close. And that's required because we're blowing the paint around, with a hair dryer or some kind of tool or a straw or something. And those paints need to be very, very thin. So there's these different ranges of consistency. A lot of people get these confused because, they either use paints that are way too thin for techniques that require thicker paint, or vice versa. People are trying to do a Dutch pour with paint that's just way too thick, and they get bad results because they don't know how to properly mix the right consistency. So that is number 2, is the thickness or thinness of your paints. The third part of our consistencies, my 3 C's of consistency, is consistency of colors. And what that means is all the colors for one particular painting, for one particular technique, need to be very similar in consistency. So you want to have all your paints equally thin or thick, depending on what you're doing. So if we're doing like a flip cup, we'll say, and we've got a couple colors that are kind of thick, they're like great, they're perfect for a flip cup. But then we use a couple colors that we used in like a Dutch pour or something. They're really thin. We can't use those together because once we start tilting the paint, well, the thick paint is not going to move very fast. The thin paint's going to move very fast, and we're going to completely wreck our design. So the third part of our consistency is we want to make sure all our paints are in the same consistency range. And there is a range. So it's not like they absolutely have to be perfect, but you want to get them close. So those are the 3 C's for paint consistency. And I'm going to walk you through my easy formula. And this is the formula I use all the time, probably more than any other paint mixing formula, and show you how to mix up my standard consistency, which is what I use probably 90% of the time. I use it a lot. So I do a lot of techniques with this particular consistency. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to write up, I have them already started. I haven't finished them. I kind of ran out of time. It's been a crazy week, but I'm going to write all these steps up, and you can download them along with all the other resources. But what I suggest, we're going to work with one color. And this is similar to what I'm going to be doing in the consistency paint course. I'm going to be showing you how to mix everything with one color. And I recommend you go get this color, because this particular color by this particular brand, we're working with the same thing now. So we're working with apples and apples. So I'm going to be using the Liquitex Basics Bright Aqua Green. I chose this particular color and brand because Liquitex is available all over the place. You can get it at Michael's. You could get it at Hobby Lobby. You can get it at probably any art store. And I know you can get it online, and it's relatively affordable. And this is a very common color. So I'm not using like a weird color. I'm using a very kind of popular common color. And this also is kind of a thicker consistency paint. So we'll see how we handle that. So I recommend, if you don't have this already, go get a tube. It's maybe $4, $5, and go through this test and mix your paints up just like this. You can download the tool I have provided for you and give it a shot. I think you'll be really, really happy. And then you'll have a feel for exactly what kind of consistency I use and like, and you'll have a way to test it as well, so that you can make sure your consistency is correct. So, all right, with that, let me flip the camera and I'll show you what we're going to do. So here we go. I've got my paints, and let's do it. So don't mind the 1 and the 2. That was from yesterday. But so here I go. I've got my Liquitex Bright Aqua Green, and this is a tube paint. I use this type of paint more than any other type of paint. I use Master's Touch. I use Artist Loft. I use Amsterdam, of course, Liquitex. I use this type of paint most often. So this is going to work out great for me, and because this is the paint I recommend. There are many other paints out there, of course, but we're working with two paints today. And this particular color is kind of a thicker color. So, but if you can get this in the right consistency, it'll be easier for you to get your other paints that might be a little thinner to the right consistency. So what I've got here, I've got one of my 5.5 ounce souffle cups. That's what we're going to be working with. We're going to mix our paints in here. And I'm going to be using my easy paint mixing formula. And by the way, I have provided this sheet in your download section, so you could go print this out if you wanted to. This is one of my paint mixing formulas. I provide this to all my members. Over here, I've got a part size, and this is for measuring your paints and Floetrol and all your ingredients. The part size determines how much paint you're going to be mixing up. So like a 1 ounce part size, that's what I'm going to be working with today. If we use a 1 ounce part size, we're going to be mixing up 3 ounces total of paint. If you use a 5 ounce part size, that means 5 ounces would be 1 part for your paints or your Floetrol. You'd be mixing up 15 ounces of paint, and that's for if you're doing a really, really big painting. So, but let me walk you through this super simple, easy recipe. This is Floetrol and paint, 2 parts Floetrol right here, 1 part paint. So 2 parts again would be double whatever this is, and we're going to be working with 1 ounce. So I'm going to be using 2 ounces of Floetrol. I'll be using 1 ounce of paint. And then we add water. And the water is always the variable with pretty much every paint formula. It always changes. It depends on the brand of paint, the color of paint, and it really depends on your formula too. Sometimes I use less paint and more Floetrol, so it really depends. So the water is always the variable whenever I'm mixing up the paint. But that's the hardest part to get right, but I'll show you how we're going to do it. And plus I'll show you another tool to make sure you're doing it accurately. So that's our easy formula. So what we need is 2 ounces of Floetrol, 1 ounce of paint. Then we'll talk about our water. So we're going to be making 3 ounces total. So let's get started. I've got my Floetrol right here. This is, I've had this bottle a long time. I just keep filling it up again. I always give it a little shake. And I put a strainer on the top of all my Floetrol. There's a little paint strainer on here held on with a rubber band. It's super important to strain your Floetrol because there can be gunky bits develop and stringy bits develop in Floetrol for whatever reason. I'm not exactly sure why, but it's in there and we have to strain it out. So I always have a strainer on top of my Floetrol. So we're going to measure, and I'll show you 2 ways to measure. We're going to measure like very accurately. And I don't measure all my paints ever this way. I have a simpler way, but this is a good way to do it to be accurate. And that's what we're after with this test. The whole point is to be really accurate with all our measurements so we can accurately get the proper consistency. So, and you can repeat this, this test at home. So I've got a tablespoon here, and you could use a tablespoon. You could also use like a little mixing glass like this. This is a 1 ounce right here. So I could pour 1 ounce in this little glass and then dump it in my cup. I need 4 tablespoons to equal 2 ounces, 2 tablespoons to 1 ounce. So I need 4 of them. And then I'll show you this. I'll do 2 here. So here's 1. And I got like a little stir stick. I'll just scoop that out. And I'll do 2, do another one. There we go. I'm getting dribbles, that's okay. So there's 2. So that's 1 ounce right there in my cup. But I'll show you another way you can measure. And if you don't, you can do this if you want. You don't have to. If you have one of these, it's great. But you don't have to run out and buy one just to do this. So that's one way to measure, is just use your measuring spoon. It's easy and I recommend it. Another way is using a scale. just like this. So I'm going to turn my scale on here. Turn on. There we go. And hopefully you'll be able to see it. There we go. So you can see the zeros right there. First step we have to do, though, we have got to zero out our scale to account for the weight of our cup. So here's an empty cup. So what I'm going to do is put the cup on the scale, and you notice it goes to 0.1. So I just want to zero that out. I don't want the cup to be interfering with my measurements. So I'm going to hit the 0 button, and now it's at 0. So, and this is set at fluid ounces, by the way. So it's hard to see that, but it's set at fluid ounces. So I'm going to remove the cup, and I'll just put on our cup full of Floetrol. And there it is, exactly 1 ounce. Wow, am I good? So next, we can do you can measure the exact same way and just start pouring your Floetrol in your scale in the cup. And when that hits 2, there we're at 1.5, 1.6. There we go, 2. Uh-oh, 2.1. Oh my gosh, I got to start over. No, don't worry about it. We're close enough. So if it's at 2.1, 2.2, don't worry about it. You're close enough. So it doesn't have to be exact, remember. So this is a second way to measure if you wanted to, is just use your digital scale. So I'm going to remove this from the scale. I'll slide this over. And I'll go back to the spoon way. So, because now we have to add our paint. Because I have to add 2 tablespoons equals 1 ounce, remember? I've got 2 ounces of Floetrol in there now. Now I need to add 1 ounce of our paint. So I'm going to just squirt this in the spoon. And you could give it a little shake to kind of level it out. And maybe add just a tiny bit more. Again, just get close enough. You don't have to be perfect with this. And maybe that looks pretty good to me. So that's like 1 tablespoon, which is half an ounce. So I'm going to just scoop that in there. And then I'll show you the other way with the scale. So just scoop it out the best you can. And you can kind of wipe out your spoon afterwards. So there we go. I'm going to just set this aside. And I'll bring over my scale again. So there we go. So it's already set. We have it at that negative 0.1. So I'm going to set my cup on it. So, and you don't have to do this both ways, obviously. Just pick one of these ways and do it, either the scale way or the spoon way. I'm just kind of showing you both methods. So we're at 2.6 right now. So we want to get up to 3 or around 3. So I'm just going to put in some more paint. And we're at 2.9. There we go, 3. So I'm going to just scrape that off. We're at 3 ounces, so that's great. We're really close. We're really, really close to 1 ounce of paint, 2 ounces of Floetrol. So now what we're going to do is just mix this up. And you notice I put my Floetrol in first. I always add my Floetrol to my cups first. I find it's just so much easier to mix the paint into the Floetrol than vice versa. So I always have done that, or from the beginning, kind of. But it works really, 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 really well for me. But you can do it the other way if you want to. It's up to you, but I like this way a lot. So I'm just stirring this up. And then I'll show you the consistency. And I always mix up the paint in the Floetrol or whatever ingredients. I might, if I'm using Liquitex pouring medium, I'd mix up the Floetrol, Liquitex, and paint first before adding any water. I always mix up everything before I add the water because the water takes a little longer to incorporate into your paint mixture. And you want to give all this other stuff a little time to kind of mingle together and homogenize. So it's kind of a 2-step process, like the Floetrol and paint mixing, and then we add the water, and then we have that second kind of mixing phase. Now this looks pretty good to me. The other thing I like to do is scrape off my my stick, because some of that paint likes to kind of cling to it, and you want to kind of pull that off and get that worked into the cup as well. So, all right, so let me see here. I'm gonna let's see here. I'm just checking to see if there are any questions quickly. No, nothing like okay, good. I think we're okay. So no one's like super crazy confused yet, which is great. All right, so let me flip the camera and I'll show you what this consistency looks like. So let me flip over here. So here's our paint. So this is what we just mixed up. So this is just Floetrol and then the paint. And I'm gonna pick it up and then drizzle it in. Drizzle it in like that. And you notice it's quite thick. And this looks kind of like cake batter, you know, it's like a little thicker than pancakes maybe, but it's this is definitely too thick for what we're looking for. It's really piling on itself, and then that pile takes a while to disperse back into the pool of paint. So now we have to add some water. And I think I'll leave the cup right here and add some water. I've got water in my little squirt bottle right here. And I'm just going to add, I know exactly how much water it takes to get this to the proper consistency. And it is just about 3 teaspoons of water. So I'm going to add 1 teaspoon first to start with. And then we're going to mix that in. So, and again, I'm being very, very precise on purpose for this test. And I recommend you be really, really precise. It will give you an idea of, you know, just how much water it takes to, geez, my cup's sliding away, just how much water it takes to get to the proper consistency. And if you do this with a few different colors, you know, just take a day and mix some colors up. Don't worry about painting. Just like experiment with your paint mixing. You'll learn so much. And of course, I don't do this, you know, when I mix my paints up, but this is so valuable to you. And make some notes, write this down. How much water it takes to mix a couple different colors. And you'll be shocked at how much it varies depending on the color, depending on the brand. You know, Amsterdam paints in general have a much thinner, smoother consistency than Liquitex Basics. I love their paints because they mix up so well. They're great. So, and they require a little less water. So, all right, so the water has been mixed in there. Let's take a look now at our consistency. And that's pretty getting closer. It's still kind of thick. So we need to add a little bit more. I'm going to add one more teaspoon of water and then mix that up. And the more you mix your paints, and if you can mix your paints to the proper consistency, like a few times, like pick 6 colors and do this. You know, that might seem like crazy boring to you. Like, oh my God, I can't do this for 6 colors. But if you do this, you'll get a really, really good feel for the paint and what it feels like. Because the feel of the paint is almost more important than the look, you know, the way it looks. So, because I go mostly by feel now, than like the little drizzle test. But it's impossible to teach you how to feel how to feel the paint. You just can't do that. So, but if you can be very accurate with your measurements for a few paints, then you can get the feel for yourself, and then you'll know. But I have another tool that will also help. So, because sometimes the feel can maybe be deceiving a little bit if you're brand new to this and you're like, I don't know what it feels like. So, but I've got another test. So now let's take another look here. I'm going to scrape my stick off again. Okay. So this is looking much better now. You notice we still have a mound, but that mound kind of disappears into our puddle much quicker now. So it could be perhaps a little bit too thick yet, but we're very close. So I'm going to put in maybe just another small amount of water. Okay, so there's one more. Let's mix that up. So I mentioned it took about 3 of those teaspoons. So we've got about 3 of them in there now. And I'll mix this up and then I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll do our test. And the test is a drip test, in case you're wondering. And a drip test with a twist, I'll say. Okay. So there, we got that paint in there, or that water mixed in there well. Let's check now. So to me, that looks pretty good. It definitely has a mound, but then it dissipates back into the cup of paint pretty quickly. Now, it could be a tiny bit thinner if you wanted it to. It could be a tiny bit thicker. But this looks pretty good to me. So I think I'm going to go with this. I said, 3 teaspoons. We did 3 teaspoons. I think we're right there. And let's look at our test now. So I'm going to flip back over to the other camera. So here we go. I'm going to move some of this out of the way. So we've got our paint, and we've carefully mixed our Floetrol. We've carefully mixed the paint. We've carefully added water. It looks pretty good. It feels pretty good to me. It feels very good to me, like my other paints that I like. So let's take a look at our test now. So this is something I've created for the consistency course, and it's a drip test sheet. And oh my gosh, it's so light on the camera, but I call it the porometer. And the porometer is actually, I got the name from a tool called the consistometer, which is used for measuring ketchup and other kinds of fluids in the kitchen. It's crazy. I didn't know it existed until, I don't know, a few months ago. But they have something called the consistometer, and it's like a little tray, and you put ketchup in one end, and there's a little gate, and you open the gate, and the ketchup pours out, and you give it so long, so you time this, and after, I think they say, I don't know, a minute or so, after a minute or so, depending on how far the ketchup has poured down the consistometer, determines the consistency of the ketchup. It's weird in tomato sauce, I guess. I guess it's mostly for tomato sauce, not ketchup, but they use it in kitchens and things like that, in restaurants. So I thought that was crazy, but I was like, that would be perfect for paint pouring. So I made my own. So, and by the way, there is another tool out there that's very similar to this. I just found out about it. And man, he had it down almost exactly what I'm doing, but I guess great minds think alike. So, but let me show you what this is. So we have these little dots. They might be very hard to see on the camera. Here, let me modify my exposure. There we go. That looks better. So here are these little dots, and we're going to put small dots of color on each of these. We're going to fill this little circle with a little dot of paint, and then we're going to hold our porometer straight up and down. So we're going to hold it vertical like this. And as we turn it vertical, we're going to time it. And I've got my, where is my stopwatch? Uh-oh. I'll have to go grab it quick. I forgot it. But we're going to time it for 15 seconds. And at the end of 15 seconds, we're going to see how far our paint has streamed down our tool here. And right here, this big band is my standard consistency range. So if it ends up anywhere in here, we're in good shape. And that is the consistency I like. So give me 2 seconds. I'm going to grab my phone. I forgot it. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Okay. So let's see here. I've got my phone. I want to zoom out a little bit. Okay. All right. So let's see what we got here. So what I like to do, we've got our standard consistency range. We have our paint that we just mixed up. I also grabbed a couple paints that I had mixed up prior to this. These are just leftover paints. So we're going to check these too and see what they look like. I've got like this is a Payne's Gray. This is a gold. And I got another one here. This is kind of a custom, no, this is like a Liquitex blue-gray color. So this one feels slightly thinner. Let's see what happens. But if it's still in the range, we're okay. So I've got these 4 different colors. And we're going to put these dots down. And then I'm going to hold this up, time it, and then we'll put it back down and we'll see where our paint's at. So one thing that I like to do is I like to scrape off the back of the stick so I don't have so much paint on there, because I want to be careful with my little drop here. I don't want to get it too big. There we go. Now I'm going to do 2 drops of green because I want to show you something. I want to demonstrate something. Whoop. Oh, shoot. That drop might be a little too big. So I'm going to do 3 drops of green. There we go. Those are pretty good. Let's put on one of this Liquitex blue-green. Again, this feels like it might be slightly thinner, but that's okay. There we go. Here's this Payne's Gray. Let's check this one out. There we go. And our gold. Perfect. Okay. So we've got some different colors here. I have three drops of the green. The center one is a little bit larger, so that's going to run a little more. But now what we're going to do, we're going to stand this up and we're going to time it. So I've got my stopwatch, and here we go. I'm going to start and lift this up at the same time. And you won't be able to see what's happening, but I'm watching my stopwatch. We're going for 15 seconds. And there we go. So I'm going to turn it down a little bit over, but get as close as you can. Now let's check out our paints. So you notice all of them are right in our standard consistency range. And you'll notice the green one here, like the first drop I put on, it's just hitting the edge. The second one had a little more paint. That's kind of in the middle. The third one is over the line a little bit. but that's fine because you don't have to be super, super accurate. 3 drops of the exact same color moved a little bit differently, but they're still right in this range. And you notice our gold is a little bit, it's down about halfway in the range. Or my gray, my blue gray is actually just like my green is. And then the Payne's gray is very, very close. So I made this tool and this is designed to get you in the ballpark, to get you close, not perfect, because we don't need to be perfect. We just need to get close. And this is great for me. And so let's say all of these colors were different. Like I wasn't using 3 different greens, but I had a green, I had maybe a different blue, maybe I had a white, and then these 3 colors. Well, if all 3 of these are in the same painting, we're in really good shape. They're all very, very similar. So they're all very close to the same consistency, and they're by far close enough to be used together in one painting. So that is my little tool, the porometer. And there's going to be one of these for every different consistency, the 4 or 5 different consistencies. And you can be able to check the consistency of all your paint. And so that is the tool that you'll get in the paint consistency course. And you already have this one. It's in your download section, so you can use it. I'd mix up some paints, test it out, just print them out. And of course, you can't reuse these. I will be showing you how to make one of these and then laminate it, so you can get it laminated and then reuse it over and over again. But the range will change a little bit because the lamination, the paint will run a little faster down that smooth plastic. So, but those will all be in the course, and I'll show you how to use all those things. Whew, all right. So let me go back here and see if you have any questions. That was a long lesson, I think. I'm exhausted, but let me just see if you have any lessons or questions. My goodness. Hey, Barbara. And then Barbara's saying 5. And I'd say, is that 5? I'm not sure what you mean. We timed it for 15 seconds. So 15 seconds is what and I write it on here too. There's little instructions on the sheet. Let me show you that quick. So right at the top here, it might be hard to read, but it says, step 1, fill the circle with paint. Step 2, hold a vertical for 15 seconds. Step 3, adjust and retest if needed. Very, very simple. So, all right. And Monique is asking, isn't the speed in which the paint flows important? Yes, that's the whole point of the test. How fast or slow the paint moves down the test. And we time it because we have to have some kind of a gauge on how long to let it run. So that's why the 15 seconds time is what I like. And it gives it enough time to run down, but then not enough time that it's just dragging. So 15 seconds is what I like to do. But yeah, that's if it flows faster down, that means it's a thinner consistency. If it goes really slow, that means it's a thicker consistency. So, all right. And then JC says, it depends on how much is in your dot. Yes. So you want to fill that dot as precisely as possible. And I'd even recommend doing a couple dots just so you get, an idea, like an average about the consistency, because it can be a tiny bit more or a tiny bit less in the dot. But yeah, that's why the dots are there, to fill them so you have an amount to put in the dot. All right. And let's see here. And I'm just checking the questions and seeing if there was any other questions quickly. And Don is asking a good question. What would you do if you accidentally put in too much water? Would you add more paint to make it thicker? Yeah, you could. You could add more paint, and you could add a little more Floetrol, a little more of each. And that'll kind of thicken it up. Unless you went really, really thin, then you might need to do something else. And if that's the case, if you made it really, really thin, I might mix up a new batch. And before I add the water to my new batch of paint, pour some of the other paint mixture in there, and it will incorporate that in all together. And that water will be kind of absorbed by, the whole amount. That's a good way. You'll have more paint, but then you're not having to kind of add different amounts of different things. So, all right, great question though. And Sharon is asking, would you split the difference between Floetrol and Liquitex pouring medium, like 1 ounce Floetrol, 1 ounce pouring medium, and 1 ounce paint? Why do you use PM and Floetrol at the same time? Well, actually, I have a formula that includes Liquitex, and it just so happens to be right on the bottom of your easy paint mixing chart. And it's my Liquitex pouring medium formula. And I'll just read you the ratio and you'll see what I use. So for that particular formula, Floetrol and Liquitex pouring medium and then paint, I use 3 parts of Floetrol, 2 parts of the Liquitex pouring medium, and then 3 parts of paint. And then the water, of course, after that. So I have a formula designed specifically for the Liquitex pouring medium. So that's what I would do. And now, of course, you can feel free to play around and design your own formulas if you want to. There are so many different ones out there, but you can easily use any formula you want. And if you just kind of do what I did here and then use the test, the porometer, you'll be able to test that consistency. So, and now it doesn't matter, like if I was using the Liquitex formula, the consistency, the final consistency, I still want would be the same, the standard consistency. So if I had my Liquitex Floetrol paint formula, I still want the paints to end up in this range right here. So, the thickness, thinness doesn't change. It's only the ingredients, the amounts of ingredients that do change. Great question, Sharon. And all right, let's see here. Anything else? There's so many comments. I'm looking for any questions. Let's see. And Diana was saying, that's a long stirring. Yeah, that was a lot of talking too, though. I usually am a faster stirrer when I'm not chatting, but it's funny. Okay, let's see here. And Barbara is saying she paints in her hot garage, and that can make the paints thicker. Yes, absolutely. So you have to be careful if you're working in a really warm environment. Like it's pretty warm in my studio because I have all my video lights on, and they're kind of cool lights, but they're not cool. They're pretty warm. So the paints will thicken up relatively quickly. So I don't like to leave them open longer than about 30 to 40 minutes. I like to cover them, especially if I'm going to go somewhere. I always cover them up, and that'll keep them fresh. And you might have to, if the paint has been sitting a little while, your leftover paint, open it up. You might have to add a little more water to get it to the right consistency again, because the water is evaporating out of the paint. So that's a great point, Barbara. And Tajur is asking, I may have missed it, but how do you know which consistency you need for the different types of pours? And that's a great question. In the consistency course I'm coming out with, I've got like a consistency tree. So it has all the different techniques, or most of them. There's so many, but then which consistency goes with that technique, at least in my opinion. And I have a consistency range, and that is also in the course. It goes from like 0 to 5. And 0 is like with basically just paint, a thinner paint. 1 is, a thicker paint. 5 would be the thinnest, and that would be like a Dutch pour, a very thin, like Dutch pour consistency. So, but it does vary. The consistency I just showed you, the standard consistency, this is great for flip cups, ring pours, straight pours, string pulls, which we'll be doing. And you could also make it a tiny bit thinner than this for string pulls, but it'll work. Floating cups, open cups. So quite a few different techniques work with this standard consistency range. This is my kind of go-to consistency. That's why I showed you this one. It's the one I use most often. So, all right, great question. And Barbara's asking, are metallics usually thicker? I like to usually mix them the same. I found that I get the best results when I just mix them as close as I can to the regular paints, the other paints. So I like to keep them pretty close. So good question, though. All right, let's see here. And Linda is asking, this is a good question, and you're not going to like my answer. How would your painting turn out using ready-to-pour paint and then paint mixed with Floetrol? Would it be messed up? Not necessarily, but I don't know for sure. I don't like the ready-to-pour paints, and I don't use them. I mix my own paints like all the time for everything. I have experimented with the ready-to-pour paints, but I just don't like them. I know a lot of people use them and get great results, but I don't exactly know how to answer that. You can try it. I'd say give it a shot, but if you want to be safe, I would only use Floetrol mixed paints and keep them separate than any pre-mixed paints. So like the ready-to-pour stuff, just use it with ready-to-pour stuff, and then the Floetrol stuff, use that separately. I think you'll have the best results that way. Of course, you can always experiment, but I can't give you a definitive answer on that because I really haven't tried it. So that's a good question, though. All right, here. And then Donna is saying, so if you were doing a painting that requires a thinner consistency, would that bar on your chart have to be lower? Yes, absolutely. And so I will have tools like this that have bars for all the consistencies. So there'll be like down here would be like the Dutch pour consistency. And it works the same way. You want to see how far that paint is going to travel down the chart. So, but I only put the standard consistency bar on this one. So that's a great question, Donna. So, and I'll show you how to do that in the membership when we get into that coming up next month. And then Diane is asking if some of our paints, but not if some are thinner but not too much, is that what causes jaggedy lines? Yes, that is absolutely correct. So if you've been tilting your paintings and you notice like you're getting all these crazy lines showing up, it means some of your paints are running faster than others. And that's what causes those kind of crazy lines to occur. And I mean, some people like that look. It's kind of a cool look. It can be, but it can really mess up your painting if that's not what you're going for. But that's what causes it for sure. Different consistencies in your paint. So, all right, great. And Robin is asking, I'm super new to this. Are the charts available? And if so, how can she get it? Well, will be available. This is a course I'm working on at the moment. It's going to be launching next month. And you can get it for free if you become a member of the Pouring Studio membership. I talked all about that at the beginning. You might have missed that part. But the membership is opening up tomorrow, and it's $25 a month. And we do all kinds of awesome membership stuff. Plus, you'll get access to all the courses I create. There are 2 in there right now, but all the other ones in the future I make, you'll also get access to them for free as long as you're a member. So to answer your question, yes, you can get them. And if you don't want to be a member, that's okay too. I understand. When the course launches, you'll be able to purchase it. And it won't be like incredibly expensive. It'll be a pretty, reasonable price. So, but you could also get it that way. And so that's a great question though. Thanks for asking. All right. All right. So we've gone, what time is it? About an hour and 15 minutes. And that's pretty good. Hopefully, I don't want to like fill your mind with too much stuff. So we've covered consistency kind of in detail. There are some great resources for you to download, try them out. You might want to watch this again. I'll give you the replay links tomorrow in the like email reminder I send out. And by the way, if you are wondering, well, where are these downloads? Where are these resources? And if you haven't signed up at my Acrylic Pouring Extravaganza page yet, let me show you where that is. And you can sign up and get them for free. So here is the link. I'm putting it in the chat. So if you go to this link, it's www.acrylicpouringacademy.com/live. You can sign up for the Acrylic Pouring Extravaganza, and you can get the Canvas Coverage Cheat Sheet 2.0. And that'll also give you all these other resources I've been talking about all week. They're all in there waiting for you. So go to that page, sign up, and then I'll also email you reminders of when we're going live every day, because we're not ending yet. Tomorrow, I'm going live and doing some demos, and I might show you inside the membership. I'll be having a live on Saturday and Sunday, and then all next week, the membership will be open, and I'll be talking more about that, showing you what's inside. So thanks so much for joining me, everyone. This was a lot of fun. Hope you found it useful. And again, you might want to watch this again. There's a lot of steps involved, but download those resources. Maybe and I'll have another one for you, kind of a step-by-step of what we did here. And this is all just to get you to mix and paint up very accurately, just so you can get the feel for the consistency. And that is it. All right. So just checking for any last-minute questions before we end here today. All right. And Lily's asking why something isn't showing. I'm not sure what that is, but let me know, Lily. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.